arrived at the top of the Acropolis, and up here, nowadays, the only two buildings remaining are that one over there, the famous Erechtheion. This is the famous Erechtheion. It is also a temple, although it doesn't have the typical form of the temple. You must imagine that in the middle building, the Athenians were worshipping together Athena and Poseidon, because the legend says that and we believe that that competition took place right over there. If we had the chance to go inside, the legend says we would have seen a hole on the ground, which is where Poseidon threw his trident, struck with his trident, and had the rock opening and giving water. Okay, and you see that olive tree over there. We're here. Number 10 is here. The olive tree is, of course, a symbol of that very first olive tree given to the city by the goddess Athena. It's not the original one, I'm going to disagree, but it just simply symbolizes that first olive tree given to the city. The most famous part of that building is those women statues, the famous caryatids. That's what we call them. They are couples. They are 6 altogether. From the 6, 5 of them are in the new Acropolis Museum down here, and one, which is the third from the left, is in the British Museum. If you ever go to the British Museum, you're going to see her standing over there, and if you look carefully, you will see that she is the one with the best kept face features. So Elgin was quite picky. He didn't take, of course, anything. He took the best pieces. But the Athenians, the legend says that the Athenians could hear the other statues crying and sobbing in the night out of sadness for losing their sister back then, when Elgin took her to England. 6 altogether. The third one is in the British Museum. The other ones are down in this museum. Their story is that they come, as the legend says, from the village Karyes, near Sparta in the Peloponnese, and that's why they're called caryatids. And during the Persian Wars, these women from that village fight alongside the Persians. So they actually betray their own country, and they have to be punished for that. So their punishment is that they have to stand petrified and hold the roof forever on their heads. Okay? So they're actually pillars. They're not simple statues, they're pillars holding the roof. Now, this is the famous Parthenon, of course. This is the most amazing building we have up here, and this building is dedicated only to the goddess Athena. Only the goddess Athena is worshipped over there. We are looking, this is the back side of the building from this side. It's the western side. There is an entrance from this side that goes to the treasury. It leads to a chamber that was used as the treasury of the city. This is where the Athenians were keeping their famous owls. What's the owls? The coins of ancient Athens, the drachmas, the famous Athenian drachmas. They were called owls because on the one side they had the goddess, and on the other side her symbol, the owl. How much does this cost? It costs 10 owls, for example, right? And it was a very powerful currency because the Athenians had their own silver, so they made it heavier and with more silver than other coins of that time. It had a lot of power. Access to this side only to the priests, okay? They are in charge of everything up here. To get to the front side of the building, you would have, let's say back then, and to look at the statue in here, you have to walk along the building and get to the other narrow side. That is towards the east, and this is where we have the entrance. And what is standing inside the building is this statue of the goddess Athena. I'm going to show you only a little copy. This is a picture of the Parthenon, again, without scaffoldings, again quite rare. And this is the building as it is originally, with the colors and with the sculptures, everything. And the statue standing in there looked like, where are you? There. Looked like this. This is a copy of the original statue, made in the Roman times, the copy, and that big out of marble. The original statue is 15 meters high. 3 meters the base of the statue, and another 12 meters the statue itself. Made out of ivory. Ivory was used for the naked parts, the uncovered parts, and the rest was gold. Not solid gold. Inside was a wooden skeleton where they attached and they stuck all the golden parts. But we know that the gold weighed about 1.5 tons. on this statue. It could be seen only from the eastern side. The people are not allowed to go in. Access is given only to the priests, so the people arrive up here very early in the morning, and they go on the other side, on the entrance side, and they wait for the priests to open the gates. But as the sun rises from the east, it falls through the gates on this amazing statue, and all the gold and the ivory glooms and glaze, creating a stunning picture of the goddess over here and showing them that the goddess is here protecting them. 15 meters high, gold and ivory, showing the goddess Athena in full glory. But nothing exists anymore from this statue. With the beginning of Christianity, this statue, like many other masterpieces of ancient Greek art, are taken to Constantinople, to the capital of the Byzantine Empire then. It never arrives there. From what we know, it is lost somewhere in that journey, during that journey. You understand that the whole gold is impossible to stay, right? So we lose it. We have nothing of it. We have only the copies, so we know what it looked like. But the building is created to house an especially big statue. So the building is made according actually to the dimensions of the statue. Huge. We understand the size and the dimensions of the building from the number of the columns. For this kind of buildings, where in the middle was the cella for the statue and outside was the colonnade, there is a specific number of columns used. And usually the long side has 2 times the number of the columns of the narrow side plus 1. And the usual number is 6 on the narrow side, 6 plus 6 plus 1, 13 on the long side. The difference and the exception here is that we have 8 on the narrow side, which gives us 8 plus 8 plus 1, 17 on the long side, which makes it a huge temple with 30% more space, larger than any other building, big enough to house the statue. And the material all comes from the mountain Pendeli, which is in that direction, behind of the hill, behind that hill over there. If I don't know if it's visible today, but in the clouds you will see a mountain further back, 20 kilometers far away. It's called Pendeli, and it's full of marble. Until today, they make on their hill, which is the famous Pendeli marble. It's the material they brought down here to construct all these buildings up here. The procedure is that the Athenian citizens, not slaves, we have to point the difference, it's citizens working over here. The small number of slaves that worked in this project were getting paid. It was the social project of Pericles, because the Athenians were fighting for 10 years against the Persians, so they needed get back jobs, okay? So the Athenians had to go up there to the quarries, 20 kilometers far away, detect the natural veins in the marble and crack them open by pouring water, sand and rubbing with ropes and opening a first canal, which they deepened by hammering there with chisels and hammers and cracking those open. Once they had the blocks cut, they had to load them on wooden platforms and pull them down here. And when the piece was here, they had a special road for this, and the transportation of each piece took them about 5 to 6 hours, which is relatively fast. For the technology and for those times, it is fast, 20 kilometers, those 20 blocks. When the blocks were here, they started constructing, using building cranes, lifting them, placing them, supporting with scaffoldings. When they wanted to build a pillar, for example, they placed the pieces the one on top of the other. You see it's several parts, right? The one on top of the other, until they had the pillar made all the way to the top. And only when they were finished with the height of the pillar, they took the scaffoldings away and they started carving the outside, making the fluting, okay, the Doric columns. And the only connecting thing between the pieces, we call them drums. Let's say we have a drum in front of us. The middle of it, it's the whole surface very smooth, and in the middle there is a hole filled with wood, and the wooden piece has another hole in its middle filled with this much lead. That's it. This is the only thing that keeps the two pieces together. The rest of it, the frame, let's call it, on the surface, is so smooth that it matches the other piece without any other connection material. It is stone on stone, absolute perfection. They followed this procedure I just described for 20,000 marble blocks. This is how much make the main building, not to mention the 13,000 thin slices of marble roof tiles. okay, that were covering the building. So it's actually a human miracle that this building was completed in 9 years, and another 6 years were needed for the sculptures. So 15 years altogether. 9 years for the building and 6 years for the decorations. When we are talking about decorations, we mean the statue inside, the pediments. This side showed the fight between Athena and Poseidon, the other side the birth of Athena from Zeus's head. If you go to the British Museum, you're going to see parts of them over there. And the most amazing thing decorating this building was the famous frieze that was surrounding the central building. It was going all around, and it showed this famous procession the Athenians organized every 4 years to honor the goddess and bring here their presence. So it showed the Athenian citizens surrounding the building and actually walking up here and bringing their presence. So a symbol of the Athenian democracy honoring their gods and the city. And 60% of this is also in the British Museum. The most amazing thing about the building is the form of the building. To understand what it looks like, which makes it also a miracle of architecture. Look at my hand. The ground the building stands on looks like this. The center of it is about 6 centimeters higher than the 4 edges. And the building was made following this curve, becoming curvy, as you understand, on all the horizontal lines, like this or like that, and becoming curvy on all the vertical lines. All the vertical lines go inwards and upwards. Which means that if from each column we pull a line to the sky with our fantasy, all those lines that will extend towards the sky will intersect, meet in 2,100 meters in the sky, creating a virtual pyramid. The form of the building is pyramidal, it actually goes like that, which makes it an absolutely unique building. No 90 degrees angle on the building, no straight line whatsoever, and each one of the 20,000 marble blocks is absolutely unique. No two same pieces, simply because each one of them has to serve its own static purposes. That's it. The fact that we don't see the building as curvy and we see it as straight is because the architects used special tricks, the optical refinements as we call them, which were to make a curvy building look straight. That's it. They made extra effort to make a curvy building look straight. For example, that each column is thinner at the top and thicker at the bottom. Okay? And the thicker part of each column is actually towards the middle. They are kind of swollen, okay? Pumped. Or on the pediments, that the middle statues are standing and the side ones were slowly kneeling or lying down, altogether giving the building an attention inwards and upwards. So this is why the Parthenon is so amazing. Okay, there has never been a second Parthenon in the world, of course. And the building stood pretty much intact, in a good shape until 1687. It's already the Turkish period, so the Turks are using the Acropolis as their citadel and fort. This is already a mosque. It had already become a church. Virgin Mary, when the Christianity started. In the Turkish times it becomes a mosque with a minaret. This is where, during the Turkish period, the Turks have their the harem of the Pasha, the women of the Pasha, and that's the gunpowder storage place. The entrance building is where the Turks keep all their gunpowder. 1687 is the year they get attacked by the Venetians. They are at war with the Venetians, and the Venetians bring their cannons right over there across on the other hill, okay, the Philopolis hill. There they bomb the Acropolis, where you understand that the explosion over there and on the whole upper areas of the buildings is huge. We lose almost all the roofs and the ceilings and big parts of the roof. This explosion. So that's where we